Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being patient tonight on Enter the Unfamiliar. Welcome back, episode 39. I've had some technical issues here. The internet wasn't working, and for some reason, I'm not able to get the black and white effect, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a StreamYard issue or my own Wi-Fi issue, but anyway, we made it. We're live. We're here, so thank you guys for being so patient in the chat. I hope you like the new intro. I want to give a nice shout out and thank you to Red Gaze, who's part of our Rogue Entertainment crew and kind of our resident in-house intro creator. He's created the intro for this stream that you just saw, and also the intro for my new the news update streams. So I've got two new intros. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. He does great work. I think it's fantastic. It's really cool, black and white. The imagery is spooky. Especially that paranormal one with that ghostly apparition coming down the stairs. I thought that was very cool. So thank you very much, Red Gaze. Yes, hail Red Gaze. Hey, who's that? Who's that over there? It's Flipp. Welcome.
Howdy, guys. How's it going?
Oh, there he is in the chat. Thank you, Red. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was a great intro. Great intro. Yeah, new intro's awesome. Yeah, thank you. How are you doing, Flipp?
Good, man. Just hanging out, good Sunday. Finally off for, a day. Got some rest, took a nap before this, so I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you today?
Very good, very good. Other than little technical issues, otherwise I've been good. Been doing some research for the show tonight on the Essenes that we'll get into. Tonight's show is going to be talking about not so much the Dead Sea Scrolls, though, James, we'll probably mention that because they are the creators and authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Essenes people, which are not as well known, kind of an offshoot sect of the Judaism. I mean, it is Judaism, but we'll get into who they were, why they were kind of apart, where they went, and what they're known for. Not only the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they actually have a very interesting take on prophecy. They kind of wrote some of their own prophecies that mirror the Old Testament and kind of fill in some gaps for some of the things that some of the questions or the Old Testament maybe wasn't as specific on things, and their prophecies actually filled in some of the details. So very interesting stuff that we'll be getting to tonight. But before that, we there was the big release of another I don't know, this is like disclosure that the faucet's turning up, the pressure is mounting, more and more of this disclosure water is just being poured out and the sink's starting to overflow because it seems now it's not even every month. It seems like it's every few weeks. The Navy's coming out and saying, oh yeah, here's another video that's authentic. It was taken from one of our ships and it's all true. And it just seems like we're climbing up this disclosure ladder and we're getting towards the roof here. So what do you think about this, Flipp? You watched the video and everything. I can actually pull up the article here. This was coming from, I think it's from a few years ago, right? 2019, I think.
Which one is this?
The recent one of the USS Omaha, who caught the spherical object that went into the ocean. Very similar to what I've caught myself and shown on this show before.
Yeah, so it's the one where they were looking out at night and they used a thermal resonator camera. And it's interesting because they're baffled by it. And it did take almost 2.5 years to come out to us.
Yeah.
But it's also strange that they keep letting us see this, and it's always stuff that already happened years ago.
That's interesting. I've wondered that too.
Not too many years back, but like a couple anyway. And it's,
yeah.
What are they doing between the time they get it and now when they're releasing it? So I'm thinking, I get the idea of wanting to study it, make sure that they've seen it from every angle, but it doesn't take 2 years to look at a grainy black and white thermal picture.
Yeah. Why now are we getting all this stuff? It seems like there's because a lot of these videos, like you said, are from, they're either a couple years ago or they're from the mid 2000s, in the case of like the Nimitz encounter, but this stuff didn't really kind of leak out until recently. And now that it's starting to leak out, it seems like we're getting more and more of it. But we haven't had anything. I don't think there's been anything from 2020 or 2021 yet that's been leaked. It seems like it's 2019 is the earliest we've seen.
Right. But also people just like you and me and people that listen to this are seeing things too, like way more than it was ever spoken about in the 90s or the 2010s. I had to look on, TV and hope for some weird UFO, hey, spotting UFO, but the news never talked about it. Now, if you went online, you could find where somebody in the world today saw a UFO today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Today. Right. Yeah. I mean, they are definitely, sightings are on the rise. Now you could say some of that is due to people having cameras, and there's more stuff caught on film, on video, because camera phones, everyone's got a camera phone for the most part, the majority of the world, or at least the modernized world. But I think it's just an increase of sightings as well. It's not just the fact that people have cameras; there are more sightings.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that the camera phones are just good enough to catch the grainy video that you get to see, but not good enough to see detail in the sky. I looked everywhere for like a thermal app or something, which is stupid because after I got done looking, this was a couple years back, but after I got done looking, I realized that it's a special type of camera that an app really couldn't.
No, yeah, it's like the lens, I think, right? It's a certain kind of lens that you needed. I don't think there's like a digital the filter would just make it look like it wouldn't really capture anything.
Yeah, it's like I
think the lens itself has to do it.
It's like an edge detector thing or whatever. But the fact that so many people see these is undeniable to the Army, the Navy, the Space Force now. Let's throw that in there. They started a Space Force when we're not at war with anyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What that we know of
going on.
I mean, that's the Space Force, when this was first announced a few years ago, people, you kind of laugh it off and think, well, what the heck, this is silly. What's Trump doing? And I mean, I think there's ulterior motives to this, which I don't really think we can actually get into because it gets into stuff that YouTube doesn't like. But I think there's, let's just say, a sort of a grid system that captures information that's going about the planet, and certain things might have been captured, maybe possibly, that deal with the November, what happened in November of last year and January 6th of this year. I think that kind of maybe plays into this. But beyond that, now that we have all these leaks, I think it's, people are starting to say, okay, maybe it's a good idea we do have a Space Force. Maybe there is really something going on, because now we have the Pentagon coming out and confirming, yes, this stuff was caught by the Navy. This is authentic. This isn't conspiracy. It's not made up. And now we can argue as to why this is being released, or if there is an ulterior motive, but at least they're saying, yes, it's real. We don't know what these things are. Like, I know RR here said they're distracting us. The whole global system is breaking down by design, and they have to keep the masses in constant fear of distraction. And I do kind of agree with you there. Things are breaking down. Clearly, we can see that everywhere in the world. We've got Israel and Hamas now firing rockets at each other. Like, that was insane watching the footage from that, in the Gaza Strip, which could, man, that's a really, really, really volatile situation. And Israel's used to deal with this kind of stuff, but I mean, that could erupt into a world war easily. Very easily. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on, especially prophetically speaking, which we're going to get into prophecy tonight, biblical prophecy with the Essenes people. But, Israel, I mean, that's like the timepiece of the end times. So that's really something to keep a look at. But yeah, things are breaking down, and as more people kind of start to see what's going on and ask questions and wonder, they are going to need, like Reagan said, I think it was during his UN speech in 88. I want to say that might not be right. I think it was 88, where he said, I often wonder how fast the world's problems would just disappear if we as humanity faced a threat from outside of this earth, and you wonder, well, if things are breaking down and people are starting to question, the narrative and push back to a degree, not physically, but just with their minds. And that would serve a purpose. Hey, look, here's aliens. Oh, we got to come together, fight the aliens. Kind of idea, or whatever spin they want to play on it. Here's our creators, our progenitors. They're coming back to usher in the next age. It's a lot of the ufology believes that. There's different views on what the agenda would be, but it would kind of, for one reason or another, bring people together, bring humanity together. Because there's either a bigger threat facing us or there's a bigger collective unity going to happen, so that's possible. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting to see all of this at work. In this case, Jeremy Corbell was the one given the footage from a source at the Pentagon. Before that, it was who's the guy from Blink 182? I can't remember his name, but that guy.
Not Travis. No, Travis is the other guy. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Tom DeLonge.
Yes.
Yeah, DeLonge. Yeah, Tom DeLonge.
So they're picking people who are in the. Well, at first they picked him. In my opinion, is because they wanted it just like the guy with the beard from used to be in the Pentagon or whatever. He said that they picked him because they wanted to get it out in sort of a mainstream way, letting people know that they're not trying to hide anything like they'd been hiding for so long.
Right.
Completely buy that. It doesn't mean it's right, but I tend to buy it. And then they go with Jeremy Corbell, who was the, I guess you would say, like the newest guy in ufology in the last couple of years to come out with the Bob Lazar story. And
he's the director and creator of the Netflix. For anyone who doesn't know, he was the guy who created the Bob Lazar Netflix documentary, which is really, really interesting. And I think goes to show and prove that Bob Lazar is not full of it. He's, he very much did and experienced what he has said that he experienced, because he's got some very interesting proof, I think, but yeah, he is kind of the new guy in ufology or disclosure.
When you put it all together, though, it's clear that they're looking for answers now because they don't have the answers. Yeah. They even say through these people that they don't have the answers. And I think they would stop short of having like another country, have a look at the equipment they have. But if you also add in that what with going to Mars and trying to learn how to use in situ resource utilization like the Moxie to create oxygen, they're going to the asteroid Bennu to bring back, well, they already went and they're bringing back some, stuff from that because they want to mine it. It says to me that there is a certain need that's not being met here. And they can't divulge everything, Yeah. What that is, I have no idea.
Yeah, RR makes a couple good points here too. So the Pentagon is confirming that they do not have control of our airspace. That's not a good military strategy to let your enemies know you are weak and vulnerable. That's true. There's a, I think he's British. There's a scientist who allegedly had information on some of these crafts and has said that he believes, according to his knowledge, that these things are drones and they're not UFO or from another planet, but they are intelligence they're controlled by other countries, basically, that these are our enemies that are sending these drones, and that they have technology that's a little bit more advanced than ours. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that. I watched his information, and some of it, it does make sense to an extent, but I don't think, like you're saying, I don't think the Pentagon would come out and confirm this kind of stuff if they knew it was another country, because it makes you look so incompetent and weak. Unless your motive is to, destroy the country, why would you come out and say that as a military? It's a terrible strategy. So I question whether these things are, of earthly construction.
Right.
Some of them I think are, like the TR, was it the TR 3B? The triangle craft. I mean, I think that's probably a prototype. But like Bob Lazar was saying, I think a lot of this stuff is us kind of taking things and trying to reverse engineer them and create our own versions of them. I think when he was there, and this was in the 80s he was talking about, but they figured out basically how to turn it on, but not how to fly it, the craft that they had in their possession. So possibly we've been able to, get it up in the air, fly it around now. or something like it, a different version that uses components from it, and they kind of are trying to mimic it. They might not exactly have that exact craft down, but maybe they figure out a part of it and say, okay, here's the propulsion, here's, so they get little bits and pieces of it. But I think the stuff that they're seeing, like these Tic Tac things, I can't believe that is 100% man-made, and that the military is so oblivious to this that they're or if they're in the know that it is man-made, and they're willing to come out and say, oh yeah, this is beyond, we have no control of our airspace, we don't know what these things are. If you knew it was another country, you would never say that, right? You would probably try to say it's us, it's ours, those are ours, try to keep the public in the dark, or try to make them feel secure. It's like, oh yeah, that's us, wouldn't you think that would make more sense?
I mean,
just say, I don't know.
Yeah, countries around the world, I mean, even ones without space programs, Saudi Arabia, are trying to get to Mars desperately. Why?
Yeah.
And if you put that together with the Bob Lazar situation, they said they had they had a pile of, I can't remember the element 115 or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. They said they had a pile of it, but they could not make it. Then fast forward to 2017, 18, something like that. They managed to create a molecule of element 115 in the Hadron Collider, but that's it. They couldn't keep it there less than not even a second, and so if you put that together with what they're trying to do, mine asteroids, which people have already said there's money in the asteroids. There's platinum, there's tritium, uranium, all kind of gold and nickel, cadmium. That's great, but they're not interested in becoming trillionaires of the world. Why? There's something they want. Now, maybe it's the fuel that can help power these machines they're making. But there's an overarching situation that I don't think has anything to do with worrying about your borders or airspace. We're talking about America. We've got more money invested in our military than all the other countries combined, save for maybe China and Russia, but that's it.
There's allegedly some material on Mars that they said once we get up and mine it, it'll just shatter gold. Like gold won't be a worthy commodity. Silver, the precious metals we have will be pretty much useless because of this element that's up there that, apparently will just destroy gold. So I guess this is why there's so many billionaires that are putting so much money into trying to get to Mars, or trying to help, Elon or NASA to get to Mars, because they want a vested interest in being able to mine, whatever this substance that's supposed to be more valuable than gold is.
Did they? I didn't see or hear about that, but did they mention the element?
No, they didn't. I don't think they mentioned the name of it.
I would bet they would.
It was pretty obscure. It was kind of obscure reference to this element that will be more valuable and worthy than gold. Now, I don't know. Maybe that can be used as a fuel source as well. There might be more to this element than just, maybe it's a power source or energy source. Can fuel something. I don't know. They just said it's gonna, once they are able to mine it, it'll make gold kind of obsolete.
Yeah, it's also a possibility, whatever that element is that it fuses with other metals in such a way that they get a third element,
True. Yeah, that's true.
A good excuse for that, or a good argument. That's really interesting. I didn't know about that. I'm going to look into that. That's cool.
Yeah, look into that. Yeah. So, but, we don't know because we're not there yet. So it's hard to say I guess this is all from what the rovers find that they don't report to the public, allegedly.
Yeah. A fun fact for the rover, by the way, the little Ingenuity helicopter that they flew, it had got a lot of dust on its solar panel, but when they flew it, the propellers cleared it off. So they're going to use the propellers to clear off the other rovers, kind of fly over it.
Interesting. Just like a fan.
Yeah, it'll extend the mission life.
Huh. Wow. That's pretty good idea.
No one ever thought of
it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Wow.
Simple solution sometimes.
Sometimes.
Most obvious thing. You've got a propeller, fans, blow the dust off.
They spin 10 times faster than helicopters' blades here on Earth. 10 times faster. That's
wow.
just
Wow.
under Mach speed, just under, because at Mach it would hit a sonic boom and blow the propellers away, so they can't do that.
Or they'd yeah. What's how is it? How does it spin faster? Is it just the way it's built, or is it because the gravity's different?
Well, because of the lack of air, they have to have it spin faster to make up for the lack of lift.
Because there's not the breeze pushing it up naturally.
Mhm. But then I don't know how they make it go faster. I guess just a hell of a electric engine or something. But yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And China landed their thing yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which. See, that's 2 countries plus Saudi Arabia has a satellite that made it. Launched also in June or July of last year. I think it was July.
Wow.
And they have a new satellite around Mars right now too. Not to mention, I can't remember the other countries, but there are a few. So because last year in July it was Mars month because the window was open for everyone to get there. That's when Perseverance took off and everything. So with all those countries going,
that's it's Mars gets its, what was it, once every 5 years or something? It gets in the rotation, it gets close enough where that's the time frame you have, or the best time to be able to get something to Mars, the quickest amount of time.
Yeah, it's like
once every 5 years,
2 years, I think. But
I thought it was longer than that. Or maybe it's
I don't want to. Well, the reason, so there's certain years where it's even closer than it is every 2 years. So those are marked by like 5, 6, and 8 year periods. So that's probably where.
I think that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I heard Elon talking about that. The best time. I think he said we'd have like another 2 years or so, or 2 or 3 years to get something together to be able to get like, I guess, Starship up and running. If he wants to get an early flight to Mars, because that'll be like the once every 5 years or something that's close enough. So that's the best time to do it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I do know that every 2 years there's a window, whether it's closer or further, I'm not sure. But the best chance to go to Mars has already passed us. That was 2018, where it was as close as it would be in another 15 or so years. So
wow.
It'll happen again. It'll happen. I remember walking outside that night just to look at it, and it looked huge. When you normally look at Mars, it's a little dot, and this was much larger. But anyway, they're going up there for something. Extend humanity's life. It's a big deal, sure. But just like we were saying earlier, there's no war right now. There's also no asteroids coming at us. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. There are asteroids.
Oh, not so fast. There is an asteroid coming at us. Yeah. I know, right? I mean, that's one of the theories we have as well, is does Elon know more than he's letting on? And I just made a video about that. Is he trying to get us off planet because he knows that the planet's going to get hit by something that's quickly coming upon us? I mean, the Vatican also said they were watching something as far back as I think it was like the late 90s to early 2000s. They were saying, there's something they were watching that's deep out in space and it's coming closer, and they expect it to make an impact on humanity at some point in the near future. I don't know if it was an asteroid. They didn't really get specific about what they were watching, but they did make several other statements to Tom Horn of Skywatch TV, who he went to Mount Graham, which is where their telescope is. It's in southern Arizona. We've talked about that. They have the Lucifer device, which is like this infrared, and they call it the Lucifer device, which is just weird that the Vatican chose that. But anyway, then they told him that he was asking about UFOs. Do you ever see any objects or crafts or anything out there when you're trying to look for the telescope? And they were very candidly said, we actually have to stop what we're doing and maybe wait 5-10 minutes, because there are so many UFOs, that like fleets of them that go by, that we have to stop and wait for them to go by, because it pollutes the sky so much, so they can keep looking out. I mean, they were just openly said this. They told this to him that it happens all the time. I mean, wow. That's pretty crazy for them just to admit that. Now, they're not admitting that openly and publicly all the time, but I mean, he went up and talked to one of the lead astronomers for the Vatican, and interviewed him, and they took him up and let him look at the telescope and everything, and told him all about it, showed him how it works, and it was right there when they were in the room with the telescope that he asked them that, and they just candidly said, "Oh yeah, we have to sometimes wait 15 minutes, for these things to fly. There's so many of them up there we can't see. We got to wait for them to fly by."
Underwhelming, overstatement.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Like, okay, so maybe we're going after all the wrong people. Maybe we should hunt down some astronomers and get their opinion on UFOs.
I know. Yeah, I wonder if like more people, have caught things. Astronomers have caught things, and also the International Space Station. Every now and then, you'll see a leaked footage of a video of coming from there where it looks like there's things going by. I think there was one. Did we look at it? Where there were like 4 of them all went by, and they were all like the same. Yeah, it's like same speed, same line. If it was space debris, the chances of that happening were like astronomical. That they would all 4 of them would be going by the same direction, same speed, same line. They said the chances of that happening 4 in a row would be astronomical. So
astronomical,
yeah.
And they were all black triangles.
They were all black triangles, right? Yeah. So what is that exactly?
What is it? Something is out there. And if we could get like an astronomer, like he doesn't have to be, or she doesn't have to be like a world-renowned astronomer, someone who's even like, who's that guy? Bruce Seasall. Man, that would be awesome.
Oh, Bruce Seasall, yeah.
Remember the video?
Yeah, that's right.
He had the UFO at Christmas time come down at his house, come right into his face. You remember?
Yeah, we looked at that, didn't we? We used that. I think we showed that. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah,
it's insane, man. Yeah,
he catches a lot of stuff.
I think it was Christmas, or maybe it was the one right after we came back from Christmas break around.
I think it was right around there. Yeah, it was definitely right around there. Speaking of, while we're on the topic of UFOs here, Game Vet sent me this video that he captured. He catches a lot of crazy stuff too on his camera. I mean, man, he really, I don't know. They're like attracted to him because they're always around. He sent me this. I'm gonna pull this up here.
Okay.
So no, this was about 11 minutes. He filmed the sky, and I think he was in the chat earlier here. I think he's there somewhere. Oh yeah, there he is there. Yeah. So this is what he sent me. I think it was earlier today. He sent me this. So watch what happens here. I think it's at like the 10 minute and 30 second mark there. So we're at 10:29 here. So I'll start from here. Let me make this. Is that big? Okay, this is full screen. All right.
Oh yeah, blow mine up too.
Actually, I'll make this big. I'll take the whole screen up here. Oh, let's look at this. The heck is that?
Whoa!
Look at that. I'll pause it here. Look at that. What the heck?
That
just hanging in the sky. I don't know if it's moving. It looks like it's hovering. It looks like it's moving very slow.
Yeah, we've seen this before though.
Yeah, the rods of light. But that looks like it's really big.
You and I were discussing it. That it looked like it was a plane crashing or something like that, but
yeah, right.
It was going
like a plane crash, but this is going up, not down.
Oh, it's going up. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's going up, and it's moving very slow.
Maybe their time distortion flux capacitor thingy isn't working good.
Yeah.
Caught between.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, that's amazing, huh?
And this is Game Vet's actual personal video.
I believe it is. Is that? Yeah, it's his. Yeah, it's his. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he films the sky a lot because he captures so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here it comes again here. He's got a good camera too, because I mean you can see the definition of the stars color pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he always gets great footage, huh? Triangles of color. Oh my god.
It's the new show on PBS.
Triangles of color. We have to be accurate. You have to inclusion of UFOs. That'll be the next thing.
Are you
UFO
getting hit
inclusion.
with UFO poop? Call the hammer, George Smith.
What do you mean gray aliens? We prefer to be called the colorless ones.
It could be like a one of those cylindrical UFOs, kind of slowly rising. Forgot to turn off their whatever is bright as hell,
Possibly. Like one of the cigar shaped the ones that we see. That it could be something that just has it left the lights on a little too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched this really cool YouTuber called Isaac Arthur. He has a little bit of a speech impediment, but this man is like brilliant. That's how you know who he is. If you go to Isaac Arthur and you're like, this guy has a weird, he's brilliant. He was talking today. Don't be grayest.
Don't be a grayest.
He was talking today about laser guns and lightsabers, but he takes a real like scientific point of view. How would you do it and all that? But he's also gone into space civilization, colonizing this planet or that planet. And his videos are usually 30 minutes to an hour long, and they're just absolutely in depth. And he was talking about force fields today, and the one that would actually work scientifically speaking would be a plasma shield.
Plasma shield.
It would stop other light weapons, but it wouldn't bullet, but it would stop a plasma or a light weapon of some sort. And it would hold air in. So you could literally have a window made of plasma. And this is with current technology. So what I'm seeing here is like,
really?
He also said it would glow like hell because we've had plasma lights. Hell, our TVs are plasma.
Right, yeah.
So that right there makes me think plasma.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very good observation. I mean, that does look like it could be some kind of plasma.
I mean, there's no doubt it's glowing like hell.
Oh yeah, it's really glowing, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Game Vet, you definitely caught you caught something crazy there. I mean, that is really interesting. Really interesting. Cavatino, welcome. We're looking at Game Vet's footage of whatever the heck he caught here. Some kind of cigar-shaped light. The Tabakians here from Planet Tabakia. The Tabakians from Tabakia. Yeah, that's crazy. That's definitely crazy. It looks like it's swamp gas from Hollywood Citizens. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy there though, Game Vet. Always catching something crazy. So I thought I'd share that to talk about it. But yeah, I do want to let's watch the footage of the USO that they caught here.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't think there's sound to it, but just in case. Right. What are their cigars? There's Clinton's.
Oh, the Fox News thing. I love this.
We've interviewed
Tucker. He's the guy, man. He's the guy that's like been chosen as the mainstream media, personality that is disclosing all this stuff. Like he's the guy that they all go on Tucker.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool as hell if Tucker's the one who gets to meet the aliens live on camera? Like
he gets the interview, first interview.
Yeah. I'd be tuning into that mofo.
Here's Tucker with an interview from the first Tabakian.
Familiar with footage.
Oh yeah.
Look how this thing's moving back and forth too.
Said there is tape out there of unidentified flying objects descending from the sky and then disappearing into the ocean. Well, today that video emerged. The Pentagon has just confirmed that the footage is real. You're seeing it now on your screen.
Oh.
It was taken by the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Omaha on July 15th, 2019, off the coast of San Diego.
Always off the coast of San Diego, too.
The UFO in question was never recovered. There was no material indicating a crash. More than that, we don't know. Tom Rogan is a Washington Examiner columnist. well versed in the subject. He joins us tonight. Tom, what do you think we're looking at here?
Well, I think we may well be looking at a true unknown, which is to say, intelligently controlled machinery that is not understood to be in the possession of the United States, China, or Russia, which are the three most advanced countries in terms of military.
So you're saying it's not it's not under the control of the Chinese, America, or Russia.
That's good.
As far as we know.
Well, China barely landed on Mars the other day. I don't know. They got pretty.
And we still don't know about their dark side of the moon landing because they didn't really release too much of it. So, you know, did they really get there? Did something happen? Did they? I don't know. There was a lot of questions with that too.
Were they invited?
Yeah, exactly.
Were we invited?
Were they invited? Were we told not to come back?
Yeah, there you go.
Same thing with well, let's watch this first, then we can get into the ocean stuff.
And so,
okay,
the video in and of itself is limiting what it can tell us, but I think it speaks to, as the Pentagon itself has admitted, this continuing trend of truly unexplained things coming into the public consciousness more than they have before.
If you listen to this with the sound up, you can hear the guys who are monitoring this video in real time gasp when it seems to disappear beneath the waves. So this kind of takes the weather balloon off the table or some meteorological phenomenon off the table. I mean, clearly we're looking at something that is, as you just put it, being intelligently controlled, and it's going underneath the ocean and then disappearing. I mean, we're sure that this could not be a foreign nation.
Yeah, it could be solar. It could be.
In control.
Yeah, that is yes, and that is why you see people like Senator Rubio leaning into the subject.
Exactly.
The military as naval intelligence, which really leads the military effort researching this. There isn't anything that we have top secret information about what China or Russia have, or what we have at Area 51 that can do what these things do in terms of the variable performance. And I think specifically relevant to this video, in the coming months and years, an area which we will learn more about is the interaction of U.S. Navy submarines, nuclear ballistic missile submarines and attack submarines, picking up sonar contact of things moving at hundreds of knots under the water. And so there is
hundreds of knots under the water. I mean, we got to pause right there. Yeah, he's talking about hundreds of moving hundreds of knots underwater. Hundreds of knots. That is incredibly fast.
Yes, it is.
Hundreds of knots.
Yeah,
that's insane. Not only are these things able to zip around the sky, but they're saying they can zip around the ocean, inside the water, under the water, at those kind of speeds.
Yeah,
hundreds of knots. My God.
My Sea-Doo went, I think the top speed, well, it was my first two-seater. It went, top speed was like 40 knots. And like they were saying that was like 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, something like that.
Right. So if you're going hundreds, and we don't know what hundreds, it's, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. I don't know what hundreds is, but I mean, even if it's 200, it has to be more than 100, right? If it's a plural. So even more than if it's 200. Geez, I can't even imagine how fast that. I guess we could calculate that. If 25 miles per hour is 40 knots, what would 200 knots be?
Multiply the speed value by 1.151. That can't be right.
By 1.151?
Oh, yeah. It says 10 knots is 11.5 miles per hour.
Oh, so so you're talking about hundreds of miles an hour underwater.
I'd probably go much faster. I guess that's just all that they've clocked them at, because I know I've also seen videos where they say, and this guy might just be talking on live, and that's all he came up with. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But, I'm pretty sure they've said they're called fast movers underwater. The USOs, they say fast movers, and so then they just disappear off the radar. But they've caught them before they disappear. Which is probably 68,000 miles per hour, Mach 20, whatever.
Right.
But while it's there, because they've got these nuclear submarines, even the attack submarines, they're a little bit smaller, a little bit more faster. They're not going hundreds of knots an hour, because
Yeah.
I think the top speed on one of them that has 2 nuclear engines is 35 knots.
Yeah, I don't
Top
think we have anything that goes hundreds of knots
Yeah, it's still intense.
underwater. Yeah, no, I mean, nothing that we know of, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, Soul Assassin, you know, you guys and Solar, you guys are making good points that it could be some kind of Black Ops project, or we're testing our own reverse engineered stuff on our own military because it's safer that way. We don't have to. I mean, you're still risking lives, I guess, because if it doesn't work the way you want it to work, and these Navy pilots don't know, and they could end up firing on you and destroying not only the ship, but if there's anyone in it, it could also be it might not be piloted either. It could be a drone too. There's some belief that these things are drones and that there's no one in them. But we don't, obviously this is all conjecture. We don't really know for sure.
He could be talking about like Illuminati, which is within our government, but not part of the government. Like, is that what I guess you think he means, like black, what do they call black government?
I think it just means Black Ops, just Black Ops, just not on the books. Basically like what Area 51 would be.
Oh, okay.
And what's Bob Lazar's site? Not Site 3. What's that site that he was talking about that he?
Oh yeah.
He knew. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it now.
It's not Area 51. It's section.
It's off of Area 51. Site. Oh gosh, someone in this S4. That's it. Solar got it. Yeah. S4. Yeah. Site 4.
Thank
yeah.
you.
S4. Yeah. Where he knows he was taking people to say, hey, look, every Thursday at 8:00 p.m. they're going to be try these Black Ops crafts are going to be going up in the sky, and sure enough, S4. Yeah, sure enough, that was it.
That's crazy. I mean, the fact
it's secret spending cash for secret projects, just not on the books.
Trillions.
Yeah,
trillions. I've probably said this 10 times on the show, but 1 week before 9/11, they were missing, what was it, $3 trillion? They couldn't account for it.
Yeah.
Rumsfeld was on the panel at Congress, like under fire. He was like, I don't know where it's gone. That's the whole reason we're having this discussion. And then 9/11 happened, and that shit got tabled, man.
Yeah, it's like no one cares about that anymore. Well, that's what we're maybe talking about here with this kind of thing. Was it RR that was bringing up earlier that if the world's coming apart at the seams, we need some kind of big event, to distract people and get everyone back on the same page. So alien invasion would, do the trick. And I know Project Bluebeam, that was mentioned in the chat, and we've talked about that as well, where it's basically like advanced holographic projections. Now, I don't know if I don't think these things are holographic, at least in this circumstance, because they've caught it on radar. I don't know if a hologram, you'd have to have something physical there, right? A hologram wouldn't be picked up on radar. Even if you could, I guess a pilot could technically see something and chase after it thinking it's there, but it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be shown on radar. I think you need something physical, giving off a signal, some kind of signature.
I can't imagine.
To have a radar track it. So I don't think a holographic image would do that. I don't think, unless it gave some kind of heat signature off.
Well, they have to, right? Because they recorded it at night. Yeah, I agree. It's at night. I want to know, how did they know to film it though?
Yeah, they must have picked up on radar first and then got their camera on it. I would imagine they probably picked it up first, saw the signal, and we're like, okay, we've seen this before. We know what's going on here. Let's get the camera on it and film it. It's the same area. It's off of San Diego, right? I would be shocked if it wasn't somewhere near Catalina Island, because that's this. The Nimitz was off Catalina. A number of them are off that little island chain there.
And Catalina, you're right there.
A couple more. Yeah, I'm not too far from that area. Yeah, for sure. Just a couple hours from that area. And that's also that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I almost forgot to mention. I heard something really wild over my house. I guess a few days ago. It was like 2 a.m, and I had, what I normally do is when I go to sleep, I try to get to sleep around 11:30 at the latest, and you know how it is. You either pass out or you can't sleep. And that night I passed out. Like that was it. I didn't even get ready for bed. I woke up, about 2 or 3, something late. And I heard this bass sound, like someone was, what I like drop the bass, like a, hum.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird. And it went over the house. It was clearly shifting from one side of the house to the other. And I thought it was my son playing his music.
Really?
And, but he generally listens to the Beatles. So I thought it was even more strange. So I walked into near his room. His door was shut and I couldn't hear anything in there. Came back in my room, man, and it just persisted. And I kept thinking, don't think that it's that, because then if it is that, they'll want to talk to me or take me or whatever. I don't want that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I felt fear, not an intense fear, but like, okay, just think about something else. But it was really weird. I didn't mean to inject that there, but I just didn't want to tell you.
Yeah, that's that's scary. You hear that hum? That's because Peter, when we had Peter Hanna on, he talked about a similar thing when he was in Dubai for the training. Remember, he like heard some kind of hum in the sky, and he's, for those of you who don't know, we had Peter Hanna on, who had been taken, I think at least three times by a UFO and had some very crazy experiences. But the one time he said he came out with his friend, he was walking out of the hotel in Dubai and he heard that like a hum, and then he said it sounded like something just like zipped off, like a light speed, took off in light speed and was gone. And his friend was, had heard that too. He's like, yeah, I heard that. What was that? So that's interesting. That hum you've mentioned there. And I've heard that from other accounts of people hearing something like a hum outside their house. What's actually, we could talk about that story you were telling me about before we went on air.
Oh, the guy.
The ESP thing. Yeah. Before that, I just want to mention, Catalina's off LA. It's close. It's closer to San Diego, but I mean, we're talking just an hour and a half or so. It's close to LA. And there's a huge cave under the ocean in front of LA. Yeah. I actually did a video on that. I've been up to that area that's off of it's Point Doom is the actual area. And it's off of one of the beaches of Malibu. Point Doom is the beach in Malibu, but it's about, I don't know, I think 12 miles off of the coast, and it's deep underwater, and it's like this huge structure. You can see it on Google Earth. It looks like there's 2 or 3 pillars that seem to hold up this opening. That's hard to say. As far as I know, no one's dived down deep enough to see if it's just some crazy anomalous, natural structure, geological structure, or if there is actually a cave opening. It looks like it from the imaging, though. It looks like a cave opening. But yeah, I actually did a video on that. It's pretty interesting. There's some crazy stuff. The footage, the USO footage that I filmed that I've shown here on the show before, which is very much similar to what this craft does in this video here. It was a black spherical object. It was above the ocean, hovered above, started moving, and then dipped down underwater. Pretty much the same thing they explain here. That was also off of the coast of Malibu, close to the Point Doom, that big cave underwater, very close to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff in California. But yeah, Flipp, go ahead. Tell us that story there. Oh, hail Chief Eddie.
Hail. So just to wrap up what I was saying, when I started thinking not to think about it, it got quieter and then it just cut off. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like my son's radio wasn't on, and we just kind of moved out here a year and a half ago. There's not a lot of people living around us, so anyway, freaked me out. So yeah, I was watching earlier today. As you do, look, click around YouTube, and I caught UFO Worldwide. It's a pretty cool channel. Y'all check that out. And like Game Vet, he sometimes films his own stuff and is pretty lucky with it. He said on his video he put up today, so I guess it'd be the most recent video unless he posted one I didn't see, but he said that he films his own stuff because at night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, he's usually awake and he decides to reach out and talk to the UFOs in his mind. You can call it prayer, or you can call it meditation, or you can call it just talking. But that's
summoning.
Anyway, it's crazy, and I've learned that through Jay here, if you do that and you're not comfortable with it, because you're getting results, and that kind of freaks you out. If you use the name Jesus Christ, if you incite the name, it changes everything, and they disappear. Any entity out there that disappears when you mention God or Jesus can't be good. That cannot be good. So this guy is talking to him, and he has footage, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, just like GameBet.
Yeah, that's Peter Hanna was talking about that as well when he was on the show, talking about how you can reach out to these, entities and basically use train yourself to use ESP to call in these entities, and then they will show up. They will respond, which I don't recommend, obviously, because I think these things are interdimensional and of an evil, demonic nature. Maybe not all of them, obviously, but at least a third of them, I guess I'd say, because if these things are part of the war in heaven and the fallen ones, we know a third of the angelic host of heaven fell in the rebellion. So if these things are connected to that, then at least a third of them are evil, but not all of them, because there's obviously a lot of good ones too. But yeah, that's the thing, though. There has been documented cases of quite a lot of them where these encounters happen and people are taken, and it happens over and over again. They call them frequent flyers, where you're kind of abducted numerous times and they can't stop it. And they meet someone that helps them from a Christian perspective, helps them and gets them to rebuke these things in the name of Jesus, and it stops. I think I think you have to probably accept Jesus and believe for it to work. I don't know if that's going to work if you don't really believe, if you don't really believe Jesus is real, or if you don't believe he's the Messiah, or has God has an ability to stop these things. I don't know if it's going to work. I think you have to believe it. But there are many documented cases where, people do accept this and then call on his name and the blood of Jesus, and these things stop, the abductions stop. So, I don't know if that's true, then this has to be an interdimensional spiritual thing, this, because you can't tell a bad person, bad human, oh, in the name of Jesus, stop. They're not going to stop, because they're human. They have their free will, and they don't have to adhere right now, at least, they don't have to adhere to the name of God if they don't want to, but these entities, if they're interdimensional and they are under the rule of God, then they have to adhere. They're bound by a power that's higher than them. So yeah, that I think goes to show that it's more than just space aliens, that's going on here.
Yeah, and they have a technology that allows them to break through that dimensional barrier. It's so weird because when you talk about dimensions, I was thinking about that the other day, and I watched this. I don't understand physics, but I watch it sometimes. We've discussed that.
Yeah.
And this woman was talking about how when you do the math, there are other dimensions, and it literally, you start with the first dimension, a flat plane, or two-dimension really. A line is just a single line. Then the second dimension is like more lines, like a square, and then the third dimension, etc. And then when you start vectoring, you can get fourth dimensions. Then you vector from there, and they just keep getting more wild, up to 11 dimensions. Now I know that people will argue that there's 26 or something like that, but when you do the math, it always comes back down to 11.
11.
So I don't know. The math works out that way.
Interesting.
So science can't say what's in that dimension, any of those extra dimensions. So I like to think of myself as someone who likes science. A lot of it. I like to think of myself as a spiritual person. And so I practice both the interest of science and religion. So I don't have a hard time believing that exists, that they exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before even having, seen UFOs.
Yeah. It should be, science and religion, a lot of, in our modern age, we want to kind of break them apart, but they really shouldn't be. It really should be, they should go hand in hand, and I think, a lot of what kind of got me more into, the Bible and believing it and faith was that a lot of the stuff is starting to be proven to be accurate. You know, a lot of the Bible, some verses in the Bible and things that we had questions about earlier on, now we're starting to understand more about the universe and, you know, about space time. And it's starting to kind of prove a lot of what the Bible had said. And archaeology, obviously pulling up things and, you know, finding different scribes and well, the Dead Sea Scrolls for one, you know, parchments that prove things were written, you know, when they were written or told about, found evidence of groups that we didn't know that existed. The Bible said they existed. We didn't find any evidence of them. And now all of a sudden, you know, we've got a scroll that talks about them. And it's like, okay, well then there you go. That proves that, you know, these people did exist. So it starts proving more, but science is a big part of that, you know, wormholes and portals and vortexes, you know, some of the things that Ezekiel's wheel, some of the things that were described, you know, now that we're starting to understand more and witnessing things that are, you know, crazy stuff that's going on. You saw that huge kind of swirling vortex thing, and where was that?
Yeah.
Iceland, I think,
Yeah,
a number of years ago. You start seeing things, you're like, oh, maybe this is what they were talking about. You know, they were describing things that were real and not just made up in their head, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that. That's my big hole video.
Yeah.
It's the first video I ever put on YouTube with the big hole there. But Russia was like, no, it's ours. We released missile and it went out of way. It's problem. Don't worry, it's fixed now. And I'm like, no, it's not a missile, man. Damn, that'd be a big rocket. I mean, a big one, like the biggest the world's ever seen, type thing.
Yeah. Jeez.
But we see, I mean, every week when we do this show, if it's not us bringing these UFOs to bear, it's Game Vet or somebody else in the chat, or in this case, Fox freaking News again.
Yeah. Again.
Where does it lead, man? That's what I want to know. Without getting there, before I know what it is, I want to know what I'm going to.
Yeah, there's so many different ideas. I mean, even in New Age, there's the event that they call it. The event will happen, you know, and they're getting their downloads from their psychic spirit guides, you know, and these entities, and they're telling them this event is going to be happening soon, and you know, it's going to be like ushering mankind into the next phase and all that stuff. From a biblical perspective, I think it's the great deception, or the great delusion that comes upon the whole earth. I think this plays into that. Ufology, you know, it's our progenitors will come back and finally reveal that they were the ones who created us. But I think that's probably part of the deception that the Bible talks about. But from the ufology point of view, it's, you know, they believe a lot of them believe that they're the progenitors, or there's a mixture of them that are the progenitors. You know, somehow we were created by these aliens from another planet, and they're coming back. You know, it's all kind of the same deal, just told from different perspectives, you know, based on like what side are they, interplanetary, extraplanetary, or interdimensional, extra-dimensional. You know, that's going to kind of maybe frame how you view this thing, or what's to come in the future. But being, you know, a Christian and believing in prophecy, I see this stuff playing out as the Bible foretells it to play out. And so I'm very hesitant to, you know, believe anything that these entities are saying, because it's usually goes against, it seems like seems to be one narrative no matter what side you come at this, and it seems to always lead away from God. Or the God of not God, the Christian God, you know, the Christian Bible, Jesus. It seems to kind of lead away from that. So that makes me question it too. It's like, why is that the one, you know, the one constant is that it seems to, all these things seem to push away from God, you know, and that makes me question that too. Like, why would it be just the Christian God that, you know, or the Jew? I mean, the Judaism is the same God, Jesus being more, you know, the Christian Messiah. But I don't know, that always makes me wonder too.
Yeah. Well, it does. It does lead away from it. What have you ever looked at it and said, well, what if, and I imagine you have, but I'm curious your thoughts on a what if the creatures from another planet did create us, but yet God still exists in this scenario. But they did create us, like the ancient Sumerians say that the sky gods, you know.
Right. Yeah.
What if that did happen? And, you know, we are sort of part, you know, what are they called? Sumerians were the ones on Earth. Who were the ones that came from the sky?
The Anunnaki.
Anunnaki. So we're part Anunnaki and part ape. What if
Mhm.
that were the case? Like,
Yeah,
what
I
if
mean,
that-
I've explored pretty much I've explored a lot of different views to see like what, you know, makes the most sense. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's an interesting theory as well. The thing that I always go back to, and why I tend, you know, to lean, I mean, besides my faith, but just like from a logical, like put the faith aside, just the logical perspective, is that the strain of logic and coherency from the Bible says the most complete story about what happened, and where it's going. Like there's a whole story there. Here's everything that happened. Here's what's going on, and here's what's coming. You know, I don't see that kind of story or narrative in other points of view or religions that make as much sense to me. Like the Anunnaki, okay, we came, we did this, we left, we're going to come back sometime. Well, you know, I don't know. Why did you leave? Why did you create us? What's the purpose of, what are you going to do when you come back? It's not there. It's just kind of, you know, you fill in the blanks and you kind of say, well, you know, we don't know. There's not really a whole narrative there, but the Bible says why we were created, why we're here, where we're going, you know, Jesus is coming back, why he's coming back, what's going to happen when he's coming back. It tells a whole complete story that others don't have. You know, and when I view that and I see what's going on in the world, and I've seen the past, you know, and then we have like the Dead Sea Scrolls, we know things were written before they came true. So there's prophet, you know, something outside of our space and time was influencing the writings of that. So there's the fact that something was written before it happened, and we now can prove that, you know, by time stamping those Dead Sea Scrolls amongst others. And I see a whole complete narrative, you know. I see the beginning, I see the war, I see the end, I see deception, I see why things work, you know, the way they do. I don't see that in other stories. Some things, you know, kind of make sense because I can kind of get that point of view, but what about this? You know, what about, and it's not there. The answer isn't there. You know, where I find the biblical narrative to tell a complete story, like everything is there and it all fits, and I see it playing out, you know.
So the great delusion, the deception,
yeah,
could be that this information was planted in such a manner in the right era, you know, for us to say, oh, well, it goes back that far. It must be, that's true, you know. And so, sure, it may be true, but the lie is where it's going. And so,
right.
as the Bible says, someone will come and say that they are this. I mean, kind of hard to argue with that.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, if you think of dimensionally, the Anunnaki say, I mean, now to me, I believe they're the fallen ones, right? They were the fallen angels that came and landed on Mount Hermon and decided to make the pact, you know, to corrupt the seed of mankind so that the Messiah could never come. God fails, you know, we win, we get to inherit the earth. I mean, that was kind of their whole idea. So if that's the case, I mean, to a degree, if it's interdimensional, spiritual, you know, spiritual and interdimensional, I kind of use those. It's the same thing, basically. The spirit realm, you know, it's a different dimension. So if God would be an interdimensional being, technically he would be the supreme interdimensional being, you know, but I mean, if he created us, that's not really any different than we are technically still created from a source outside. Now we were made of the earth, but we were created from someone who is not of the earth, you know. So I mean, technically, we are sort of created by an interdimensional being, you know. Now, I think the Anunnaki are the fallen ones who rebelled and came and tried to take credit for that. I think they try to take credit for everything God did because they want worship for themselves, you know, because they were jealous and they were angry at humanity and the promise that we were given. So they said, well, let's corrupt, you know, mankind. Let's take worship for ourselves. And so then they, you know, and they did create the Nephilim. So, you know, they did create. Yeah, they did create a race of, you know, an offshoot race of their own. You know, so in a way, I mean, the Anunnaki story is like kind of true, but you know, they just twist things as to the real source of this. You know, they take the credit for themselves, and even amongst, you know, you look at the Sumerian tales, even amongst the different. I think we talked about this last week, actually, or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the Apophis hitting, where different entities, you know, different of these gods were taking credit. They were kind of arguing with themselves, taking credit for each other's stuff, and they were given different points or different regions to kind of be in control of. So there was, I think, 70 different regions of the earth kind of was the number that sort of signified, the entire world. So there were 70 different heads, positional heads, or, God, small g. And even amongst them, they were fighting with each other for, who got to take credit for what and where. And, you had some entities taking credit for the same thing. And so, it seems like it's a very kind of jealous sort of structure where they're all not only trying to take credit from God, but trying to take credit from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know it because you froze for a minute, but yeah, because I remember in learning about, through Zechariah Stitchin and of course ancient aliens, that their hierarchy left kings on earth, but godly kings. They were called gods, small g.
Which is what I think. I think they were Nephilim. I think they were their offspring that they left on earth.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense to me because they would put them in charge. Sure.
I would say the Anunnaki were the fallen ones, the interdimensional, the angelic being, the fallen angels. And then the ones that they left in charge were their offspring, which were half angelic themselves or interdimensional and half human, and they were the ones that were ruling as human, quote unquote, gods and pharaohs. Yeah. Pharaohs, you look at some of these pharaohs. I mean, they all have the cone heads, the elongated skulls. I mean, this wasn't natural. This wasn't all cradle headboarding, as we know from the Peruvian skulls they found. There's DNA differences. They're not all cradle headboarded. That did happen, obviously, but a large amount of what's being found in Peru, they're not cradle headboarded. So, and even if they were, or the ones that were, who are they trying to emulate? There was some, they're trying to mimic something.
Mm-hmm.
So, why do you do that? You're trying to honor a godlike figure, that came in contact with you.
Of course they were. This is an interesting footnote to this, though. I was watching something. I don't know what it was, but I watch weird sciencey shit. So apparently, Albert Einstein, you would think he probably had a bigger brain than most, right?
Yeah.
You would think so. His brain was like 1 milligram smaller than the average human brain.
Really?
Yeah, and the largest human brain in history, that person, they said had trouble forming words. So
bigger's not always better, I guess, huh?
I guess not. But I thought that was interesting because you always see that gray alien, you think big brain, smarter,
Yeah.
Footnote there. I wanted to add in.
That's interesting. Yeah, you would have think. I guess maybe Einstein had access to more of the brain than we do. Most humans do. I mean, what is it like? They say the average human uses 10% of the brain or something, but that's not necessarily just 10% of the brain capacity or the brain size. Is 10% of the capacity of the brain. So you're using different parts of it. It's not only like, the 10% is right here in the frontal right lobe. You're using all different parts of the brain. It's just accessing it all at once or at the same time. You're only using 10% of the brain at one time. So if you're able to use, 100% of your brain all at once, I mean, you'd be able to do a lot more. So maybe he was just able to use a higher percentage of his brain somehow, not necessarily the size. As Clay Thompson says here, so size doesn't matter. Yeah.
Ask the Nephilim.
Yeah, ask them. They were huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, interesting. So I don't know, so where is this all headed?
Yes.
Is the question, that's the main question. That's kind of the topic.
Well, I know where we're heading. Too. I know we're heading to Mars.
Yeah, we're heading to Mars with Elon.
More and more every day. Landed SN15, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he's making a lot of headway. So, I don't know. So they say, how long do you think that until you get a manned flight. Well, first of all, we got to get back to the moon. We haven't even
Right.
gone back to the moon. Who knows why? Are we not allowed? Or maybe we are and we don't know it. I mean, that's one thing. But how long do you think we could get a manned flight to Mars?
I agree about the moon. We got to get there first. And so that's supposed to happen in the next 5 years. I know they say 2024, but on a serious time scale, I'm thinking, I say 5 years. I meant by 2025. I'm thinking by then. Yeah.
2025?
That's to the moon. To Mars, I'm going to say mid 2030s, 2035-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, I'd love to be wrong on a realistic time scale, because what they're planning on doing is fueling the Starship in space, right?
Right.
So that's going to take a whole lot of tankers tanker ships, like something like 5 to 8. I've heard different numbers. So you sit up there in this giant starship circling the Earth at 27,000 miles an hour, while this other rocket's brings up another tanker. Let's just say 5 times, just to be on the low end, right?
Yeah.
That's going to take a while to do. I'm guessing a couple of days worth of sitting up there. To me, it makes more sense to go to the moon, refuel the rocket there, and then with the low gravity of the moon, take off, circle the moon a couple times, and then, or even circle the Earth and then slingshot over to Mars that way.
Yeah. So for that, you would need some kind of a better structure on the moon too. You need to build some sort of fueling base, there.
Yes.
I don't know how long that would take. If we're thinking we could get back to the moon in 5 years or so, then you got to construct something up there. I mean, maybe it wouldn't take that long to construct with, 3D printing and stuff now. I mean, it might not take that long. Well, you might be able to do it pretty quickly.
I meant actually it will be there by 2025. The moon for sure will be there by then. And they've already got the in situ resource utilization project, the MOXIE on Mars, which produced 5 grams of oxygen, enough oxygen to give an astronaut for 10 minutes worth of heavy work, or average work, sorry. But they also know how to bring the water and the other chemicals out of the rock and regolith on the moon. So it's a matter of getting there with the right machine and just doing it. I don't think that would take any longer than 2025 as well. I think we could do that. And to make things drive you just a little bit more crazy, we can get to the moon now. We have the Orion, we have the ULA launch, the United Launch Alliance rocket, which is a heavy lift rocket. We could go now, actually. No question about it.
Now, do you think that they've been able to skirt by the Van Allen belt? Because that was the one thing that NASA keeps saying over and over again. Oh, we don't know how to get by it, with humans because the radiation. Somehow, we're supposed to believe they did it in the 60s, but they lost the technology or the ability to break through the Van Allen belt, and now they're having a problem trying to get humans through it again. It's the high radiation belt that's it's above the lower, it's in the upper atmosphere. So, how could you in the 60s, when computers took up the size of a ruler like this, state of the art is my backdrop here, and now you've to break through that. Now, do you think they are able to do that?
I think that is the question of the day.
We froze up here. Flipp, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh no. I think we froze up. Well, all right. Let me know in the chat if I'm still live, because I don't know if Flipp, I think we lost Flipp. Maybe we lost both of us. Okay. Looks like I'm still alive. So, there you go. There, you're back.
Oh,
he froze up there. I was like, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You think they lost the ability to get through the Van Allen belt, and you think we've figured it out again?
That's a good question, man, because it's an issue and then it's not an issue, and then it's an issue and then it's not an issue. I have no clue. Yeah. And we've just go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I've seen the pictures of the lander that they allegedly returned back to Earth, from the moon on, and it's like, I mean, the thing is, like, it looks like styrofoam and tinfoil and little metal antennas, and we're supposed to believe that was able to get through the Van Allen belt on the return from the moon, but now they don't have something that looks so rudimentary. They can't build something in the look. I mean, it's at the Smithsonian. Can't they just recreate it? If it worked once, why couldn't they just recreate and do the same thing?
Exactly.
Reverse engineer that.
Yeah, how hard could that be?
Yeah,
I do know that they're going to run water through the walls of the Starship, the lunar Starship module, which so when it gets up there, because they won the race, right?
Yeah.
So trying to silence us already.
Am I frozen? You can hear me, but am I frozen? Soul Assassin says I'm frozen.
Not right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, so anyway, I think that them running water through the hole is their fix for it, honestly. Yeah. Water, it deflects radiation, absorbs it. I mean, so I think that's what they're planning on doing. So all their recycled water will be in the walls.
And did you see that device? Where is it here? Device they came out with. You know what? It's like a Star Trek replicator, basically. I did a video on it. It was a week or so ago. I'll pull up this thing, nanotechnology. It's like a replicator, basically.
Oh, this would be cool.
They developed this. I mean, I couldn't believe it was real. It's so sci-fi and out of this world that, it's crazy. But they developed this thing that basically you can create any material you need to create in space. It just creates it for you. Food, it sends energy as food right into your body, so you don't need to eat. If you have sicknesses, it's going to cure viruses and bacteria. And I mean, it's incredible, this thing.
Is this the electric bed thing?
It's kind of like that. It's sort of like that. Yeah, it's the Universal Material Enhancement Unit. It looks like it looks like a Tic Tac. It looks like a Tic Tac UFO, and they're saying that eventually this thing will be able to fly.
Go figure.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's interesting. Either you reverse engineered something, or someone gave you, they gave you this technology,
right? We're becoming friends with them. That's the whole thing that's under our noses, right?
Or making deals with them, like, here, we'll give you this technology. Let us abduct everyone we want. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There's that possibility too. Here, let me see. I'll get to the part where it talks about it here, though. Yeah, it's kind of like I use this as a reference, which I hate using this as a reference, but
no, use your own, please. Oh, I see.
No. I don't mean. I mean the movie that I'm using here is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here, this is it. Here, this is the guy talking about it.
That's crazy.
Food, some sort of energy that goes into the body and replicates food or produces the energy inside of you. So it seems like what he's saying is you don't need to eat. So let's take a look at this video now.
In a new space technology, we do not need to take food. We do not need to take medicine. And any illness can be...
Doesn't this look like a Tic Tac UFO?
Yes.
It's kind of the shape of the Tic, and this thing is, they're saying it's supposed to be able to fly at some point. But yeah, so he's saying you don't need to eat. It will take care of food, and it will take care of all disease.
This is insane.
Handle in space according to the fields of the body, and this is what is called the universal body enhancement, which means body corrects itself. If you are hungry, you sit in the system, it replenishes the food. It takes what energy is not needed.
So if you're hungry, you sit in the system and it replenishes the food. It just gives you what energy is needed, however that works.
How?
60 Minutes. Cavatina says 60 Minutes YouTube channel just dropped a video 2 hours ago about UFOs. Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yes, thanks
later.
For the tip.
Yeah, interesting.
Once you
I know. I like to eat
enter the
too.
system,
Look, there she is. A replicated
gives
human.
you everything. The system works with the internal system body of the man
Is he?
and gives every need that the body can demand, be it food or in a space like viruses. It can
Extract viruses from the body, he says.
This is what we call universal body enhancement. And from now on, man does not need to depend on eating food where he can transfer energy directly to the body as we digest the food inside our body, in our stomach, or in the intestine.
So you don't need to digest
This is
food
the
or eat
breakthrough.
food anymore. They just give you the energy you need. All the
What?
nutrients will be zapped into you somehow.
Where did you find
Like
this?
it's like photosynthesis. This thing was from. This is like a huge. I don't know how this didn't get more coverage. Honestly, it's like it's under the radar. I saw an article on it, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I checked it out, and it was like released in this, really oh, what's the thing called? The guy's. Do I have his name here? I thought I had his name somewhere here. It was a big thing in Europe, one of those tech conventions, and they released this and showed all how it works and everything. But it didn't really get. I forget the guy's name. Something with a K. It starts with a K. It's in the video though. I'll put this video in the chat if you guys want to check out the whole video. But
I'll watch it.
I mentioned the guy's name and everything. This is the guy, the owner of the company that developed it. But so there's two. There's this, which is the body enhancement, and then there's the one that looks just like this one, which is the material enhancer, and this creates any material you need.
It works like Earth and the sun.
So I don't know exactly what he means by this, but it works by Earth and the sun. So somehow it uses the sun and the Earth to function, but he doesn't really describe how that works. He just says that's how it works.
This is insane.
Inside
it's insane.
Produce any material we need in the space.
So inside it, you can produce any material that you would need in space.
In space, we cannot take materials with us. With a new understanding of technology,
it's the restroom of the future.
Make what we need at the point of demand anywhere in the space. We can produce materials where the center works like a sun.
So this center here works like a sun. Somehow, that thing it works like the sun.
All the systems, each one tuned to produce one material. We can produce copper. We can produce zinc. We can produce
copper, zinc,
any material at the time and a point of need and demand. And this is what the new technology is. The new space technology. Man does not need to carry any food, medicine, or water. We produce it anywhere in space.
Don't need to carry food, medicine, water.
Mankind to be able to sustain life for long-term duration anywhere in the universe.
No, that's too good to be true. That's a genie in a bottle.
Yeah, this is how you would get to Mars or anywhere. You got a couple of these, you have everything you need.
No, I can't. I don't believe it, man. That's nuts.
I know.
It produces whatever you need inside.
So did you catch that? He said,
I was reading you, me, you is the acronym. You, me, you.
Yeah, you, me, you. Yeah. Universal
material
that's a universal material enhancement. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. I'll bring up.
Really?
Quiche Foundation. That's what it is. Yep. They opened it last year. Yeah, I mean, here's the Facebook page, but you can find articles on. But here, you look at the.
You know those things.
That's the Facebook page that talks about it there. It was shown in Austria, September 3rd of 2020. It was revealed.
Austria.
Yeah.
You know those things that people came up with, back in like the World's Fair, they'd come and say, "Oh, we've got this new thing that does this. Please invest in us."
Yep.
That's what I feel like this is.
Yeah.
Like a money pit.
I mean, that is what it's like, a World Fair. Hey, please help us out. But I don't think he's really I don't know. I don't think he was looking for donations. I think they already have it. It's already working. And now he doesn't show it actually work. So that's the only thing, he doesn't actually show a function. He just says what it can do, but they don't show you. Now, at least it wasn't part of that, maybe in the future it will be, but I think he just talked about what it could do.
So to a
here's
degree,
the page.
to a degree, I believe replicators are possible. I've given this thought not because I learned it on Star Trek and thought, hey, that can be, I got to thinking about 3D printers, and one day I thought, well, whatever you put into it, it can design, engineer physical, construction. So
yeah,
I suppose if you could do it on a molecular level, why couldn't you? If you had the right materials to put into it. This thing takes that to a whole nother level of, well, you don't have the material. We'll just make the material out of nothing.
Right. Well, they have, I don't know how they have systems, he says, but I don't know exactly what that means or how they exactly how it uses the sun and the earth. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't really go into too much more detail, but here's kind of a picture, an image, a computer image of this is the chair, so you could lay down, and it goes over you and takes out all of your illnesses and whatever else.
Well, I'd like to hop in one of those.
I know, it's crazy, huh?
Well, yeah. My mom and dad had been talking to me about something called a med bed. I don't know if you get.
Yeah. Yep. I know that. Yeah. Yeah.
I keep telling them, don't sink all your hopes into that because
Yeah. Well, maybe it's time to revisit that idea because this is like the future. I mean, this is better than a med bed technically.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Intrigued. You have me absolutely intrigued.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh? It's crazy. So that's the possible future of restrooms, as Gabe says.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, but you can just type in, search. Well, I put a couple of them in the chat there, but you can just search this Kesh. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Kesh Technology, Kesh Foundation, and the guy that created. Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's cool.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. I know, it's an insane new world we're entering into here.
I do believe that things like that are, coming. Even if that is real. I mean, like I can grasp the concept of it. I guess I'd be more apt to lean toward replicators that can produce whatever food you want as long as you put in the correct elements, as like the.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, this is saying they can create the elements. So, using the sun and the earth, I don't know how that works, but yeah, you think if I believe it's possible too, but I would just think we'd be a little more technologically advanced where we'd see early stages of this technology before all of a sudden here it is. We've got it all. It's like, well, where was the first stages of this? All of a sudden you're jumping to like this thing. It can do anything and it extracts all viruses and it's going to be able to fly. Where was the first, early version? Where's like the print, the printer version, the at-home printer version that everyone has in their house before the, this thing is revealed. But I mean, they kind of just jumped right to it.
They really do. So you've got like no phones, skip the beepers and go in like 1980, you go straight to we
get like rotary. We go from rotary to cell phones. Yeah. You skip all the other stuff. I know.
Wow. I'm gonna totally be looking into that. Thanks for showing me. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it blows away the like 3D printed steaks. It blows away 3D printing.
Yeah.
Now you don't even need a printer. You just need that. You need that thing, but with that you can create anything you need.
Wookiee does have that's funny that you said that because they do have a fake meat, a fully synthetic meat you can eat. And they say it's indistinguishable from real steak. So I'm not going to try that. But, yeah.
Beyond Meat, they've already got Beyond Meat, which is like the veggie meat.
Yep, that's right.
But yeah, I don't know about
synthetic
meat. Yeah. Well, they're trying to get people away from farming now too. And, I saw a story saying that the crops, farm animals, are releasing so much methane that, it's bad for the ozone, and it's, just goes on and on with environment stuff. So now it's just a push to try to get people away from farming, away from being independent.
Right.
Let's
Because
make synthetic meat, and
well,
they
sure,
could have a
because
monopoly on it.
the funny thing about methane is you can split the atoms and make oxygen.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. Why not you just create more facilities that do that instead of trying to take our steak away?
Yeah, damn it. I don't even remember the last time I had a steak.
Yeah.
No, I do. It was last year.
I had one in March.
That's good.
Or April. I think we had one in April. Yeah, it was a month. Yeah, we just had one a month ago actually. But yeah, it's rare. I don't actually eat too much steak. But I mean, chicken, fish. I eat a lot of chicken and fish.
Me too. Yeah.
Chicken. There's a chicken shortage all over the world too.
Is there?
Right now, yeah, there's a chicken shortage all over. Well, I don't know if it's all over the world. It's all over America, though, for sure. There was, I think it was Popeyes that released one of the Popeyes in the south, like the southeast, released this new chicken sandwich, and they had to cut it because they couldn't get enough chicken patties to make this thing for people. They were running out. There's a chicken shortage right now.
I believe it. I do. Because at the grocery store, it's hard to get. Like, I don't eat any of the nuggets from the grocery store ever, but they're hardly ever there anyway. So
the nuggets? Oh yeah, see, yeah, there's a shortage right now. Oh, cockroach fillets. Oh gosh, no thanks, no thanks. All right, well, let's get it. Well, Flipp, do you have to take off? I'm gonna get into the Essenes topic here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm ahead so I can make sure that I'm awake for work tomorrow. Usually it's no problem in the morning, but about 4 o'clock, I'm just dragging ass and I get off at 6. Those last 2 hours feel like an eternity when I stay up super late. But
yeah, and you're on the East Coast, so it's 8, 9, 11 already there. So
yes, it would be a blessing to get some sleep. So I hate to leave you. You're going to have to get that drinking game going on your own tonight.
I don't know if we're gonna get too much into I'll say it here, the Nephilim tonight, though. This topic's doesn't really delve into that tonight. So it'll be an easy drink. But I did enough of it over the last few weeks, I think, that we'll break.
That one night, bro.
Oh, I know. Well, that topic was all about it, so it's kind of hard to avoid it. But
yeah, true.
You will tell everyone where you can be found. And
yeah, guys, come check us out at the Phantom Collective on Twitter. Of course, you can look at my old videos at Flipped Out on YouTube. And, of course, we could definitely use some new subscribers over there on Phantom Collective on the YouTube channel, too. And more content will be coming at you from there. Rookie and I have been planning it for quite a while. It's just a matter of us having time and a matter of time before the content comes out. So thanks for all of y'all's support. And it's been great hanging with you guys tonight.
Right. Well, thank you as always, and we'll see you next week.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Have a good night.
All right. See ya.
See you, Flipp. All right, guys. Well, now you're just stuck with me. So hopefully see the viewership go down. All right. So we talked 2 weeks ago about this Apophis, which is this asteroid that NASA is saying it's probably going to miss us. There are 3 dates that that NASA's giving that it's going to do a flyby with the potential of possibly hitting us. Good night, Reggae. Have a good night. Thanks. Well, thanks for the intros, first of all. But thanks for hanging out too. I will see you on Tuesday. See you on Tuesday for our TR4 stream. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Okay, so Apophis is this asteroid that's heading towards Earth. They say it's going to do a flyby, but the dates that are given are interesting. So we're going to talk about prophetic stuff, some biblical prophecy stuff here, because that's one of the areas of this channel I like to cover, especially because I think time is kind of close here, that we're getting towards something. Obviously, with the UFO buildup, there's something. We know something's coming. But the first date that it's supposed to do this flyby is in 2029, which is coming up. It's right around the bend here. Was that 8 years away now? And the next date after that is, I believe it's 2036 and then 2068. So those are the dates. I just confirm here that it's going to be flying by the Earth. Now, at first they said 2029 was looking like it could be on target to hit us. But then they said as it was rounding around the sun, they said something had kind of pushed it off path, and now they think it's going to miss us, but it could come within a close enough. It's going to be between us and the moon, so we should be able to see this. It's going to look like a bright star in the sky as it goes by, and miss us. But it might hit some satellites and cause some disruption. So, but I just watched the movie, rewatched the movie because of this topic, Greenland recently with Gerard Butler. And it's about an asteroid that, is coming towards Earth, and it's a planet killer. And it's funny because in that movie, they were also saying it's not going to hit us. We'll get to see it go by, but don't worry, it's not going to hit us. We'll be fine. We might get a little debris, and then it started. Well, we might get a little debris, maybe some, a little dusting from some of the asteroids that's around it, but we're going to be okay. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't until the last minute that they sent out the alert saying, okay, we need to get, a certain amount of people to a bunker to save humanity, and they were in danger of being hit. So, I question whether even if they do know it's going to hit us, would they tell us, and when would they tell us if they did know? Would NASA release that information 8 years out, because it just seems odd that things can change in space. Obviously, they said solar flares, radiation gas from the sun can push things off or on the trajectory of the Earth. So it just seemed kind of quick. They first said, yeah, it's looking like it's going to hit. Then they changed their mind real quick. But, was it a call from above saying, don't tell people that? Just tell them it's not going to hit. It's going to be a close call, but we'll be fine. I don't know. But anyway, the date thing is very interesting. So 2029. Now, that date, April 13th, 2029, is Friday the 13th. So that's the date that it's supposed to first fly by. And if it misses us, then it will again fly by, and I believe it's 2036. I thought I had the note here somewhere, but I believe it's 2036, and then 2068 is the third time it'll fly by. Now they're saying now that 2036 is looking like it's maybe more possible. It's maybe more possible that it might strike us then, but again, they're not sure. I mean, this stuff, things can change in space. So, but what I found interesting was there's the Essenes people, which were the people that were responsible for the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now they have a prophecy. They were basically an offshoot of Judaism, and this was for at least 400 years before Jesus, the time of Jesus. They decided to leave the Jerusalem and venture off into the wilderness. They thought they had a prophecy that they received that stated that their people, the Essenes people, would be the prophetic voice in the wilderness that would herald the coming of the Messiah. So, which ended up being John the Baptist. So there is a belief that John the Baptist was an Essene himself, and that he is the voice. Well, he was the voice in the wilderness, but he very well could have been an Essene, because they were where he was preaching about the coming of the Messiah, and where the Essenes people were held up, where they kind of built their community, were very close to each other. I mean, the Jordan River where John the Baptist baptized Jesus was 8 miles from where Qumran, which is the area that the Essenes were, where they built their village, and that's where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. It was only 8 miles away. So very likely he was an Essene. At the very least, he was very well connected and they knew each other very well. Now, the Essenes were believing that in Jerusalem, there was a movement towards getting away from the traditional Hebrew customs. They were becoming a little more modernized. They had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which were two kind of ruling classes, the religious elite at the time, and that they were not really following the law of Moses as they should be. They were making variations to things, and they were kind of taking too much power and praise, I guess, onto themselves. So they decided, we're moving out. We're getting away from this. This isn't what it's supposed to be about. And they wanted to be more grounded in like the basic structures of Jewish faith. So they tried to keep the right traditions. They had a different calendar than what, Israel to this day still has a calendar that it traces back to gosh, I mean, it's before the Babylonian captivity, but they had their own calendar, which they believed to be more accurate to what the calendar that God gave. And it was based on a solar cycle, where the calendar right now is based on a lunar cycle. Our calendar is based on a solar cycle. So our calendar is closer to the Essenes calendar. But in Israel and, for the Jews around the world, they go off of a lunar calendar. So there are differences already in some of the dates of when they celebrate certain holidays, for when they would have celebrated holidays compared to when the Hebrews celebrate, and even to this day still celebrate some holidays. So they broke off and they went out to their wilderness and made their own kind of camp there. So here's some of the interesting things. Now, they had in their calendar, they had predicted these cycles of the ages of the earth, and they broke them down into 2,000 years. And there were, I believe, 4 2,000-year periods before like the end of the age of man. And the first 2,000 years, or you could say dispensation, was the age of chaos or creation. And this would have been from Adam and Eve up through Abraham. And then you would have the age of Torah, which was the time of Moses up through, and that's when they were writing, the age of Torah. And then that would have been up and through Jesus. And then from Jesus on would have been the age of grace. And they actually called it the age of grace a few hundred years before Jesus was born, before anyone was talking about, grace and God's grace. This was not part of the Hebrew, the Old Testament and the Torah. They didn't talk about an age of grace. They viewed the Messiah as being, and at the time in Israel and Jerusalem, they believed the Messiah would come and be this military leader, going to free them from Rome and be like a king on earth, which was not what Jesus was prophesied to do, but that's what they believed. So this idea of grace, was not something that they were believing at the time, but the Essenes people knew this and actually called it the age of grace. And then they have it going through the kingdom age, which is the age of Messiah coming back and ruling in Jerusalem for 1,000 years, the millennial reign, the millennial kingdom. That's in Revelation. They were talking about this before the New Testament was written, because they were talking about this before Jesus had existed. So they were more in tune with the Messiah, who he'd be and what he was going to do, than the Hebrews at the time. It's part of the reason why they, Israel didn't accept Jesus, because they viewed the Messiah as being a military leader, as I said, and they weren't getting that. So they view, well, this guy can't be the Messiah because he's not doing what we thought he was supposed to do. Even though when you read the Old Testament now, you see Isaiah, talking about the Messiah would take the stripes of mankind, he'd be nailed to a tree. I mean, there was all this imagery of what the Messiah was going to do, but they missed it. They thought it was, a military leader, but the Essenes got it. So they predicted over 2,000 years ago that mankind would enter its last age in the year 2025. So that's, we're 4 years away from that. So that was with their prediction of when the last age would begin. Now they broke up their 2,000 years into even more exact dates. So each age, which is 2,000 years, each of those is split up into 500-year unas. They call them unas. And each of those 500 years is split up into 10 jubilees of 50 years apiece. So basically all of human history can be broken down into these 50-year jubilees. Now, a jubilee is when every 50 years, Israel's supposed to forget all debts, forgive all, any debts. They were supposed to, any slaves that they had or servants that they had, they were supposed to free. It was like this year of peace and celebration, and everyone's free and debts were forgiven, forgiveness, that kind of idea. So that happened every 50 years. So the last jubilee of mankind, the last 50-year period, would begin in 2025. Now, when you put this in the scope of prophecy, which is why I found the Apophis, this kind of stuff tying together, if there is a 7-year tribulation, as the Bible, basically, most people accept the 7-year tribulation. There's discrepancies here and there, but there's 2 periods of 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, that things have to happen. So, and there's other references that indicates probably a 7-year period, plus 7 being the number of God. There's a lot of sense into the belief of a 7-year period. If there's 7 years and the end of the age begins in 2025, if you go 3.5 years from 2025, you would hit 3.5 years exactly from one of, I forget which feast day it is in 2025. It's one of the Israel feast days. I forget which one it is now. But if you go 3.5 years from that specific feast day, you hit April 13th exactly, April 13th of 2029, which is the date that Apophis is supposed to do its flyby. Now in the Bible, halfway through the 7-year period in the tribulation, there is a asteroid that is supposed to hit the earth, some kind of flaming mountain that's tossed, on the earth, and it poisons the waters. It's called wormwood. So there's very interesting connections here between the Essenes and what they had predicted and this coming Apophis and what it could potentially do to the earth at that time, where it's going to kill, a third of mankind, a third of the wildlife, a third of the trees, a third of the grass, it's like a third of everything is burned up. A third being a very interesting number, a very specific number. A third of the, angels rebelled and fell from heaven. There's this interesting, a third of something when it comes to judgment and the fallen ones rebelling and judgment. There seems to be a reoccurring, I don't know, I wouldn't say number, but whatever, a fraction. So, so that begins in 2025. Now, 3.5 years later, you've got that, the Apophis, and then 3.5 years after Apophis, you'd have the end of the tribulation, and the coming back of Messiah, his second coming, and that lands on the fall feast days. That lands like right on, it's like the 7th day. It's right in the middle of, I believe it's Rosh Hashanah. That 3.5 years from April 13th, you're falling right in the fall feast days of the Jewish high holy days in the fall, which is what this Messiah needs to fulfill. Like Jesus, when he first came in the spring during Passover, he fulfilled the prophecies of Passover, made amends, atonement for the sins of mankind. Because that was the whole thing with Passover. You had to slay an innocent lamb. The spilling of innocent blood was to cover the people of Israel with their sins. Jesus was the one-time sacrifice, did that. So he fulfilled the spring days. He's got to come back and fulfill the fall feast days. So 2032, 3.5 years after Apophis, he would come back right in the fall feast days, 2,000 years, exactly 2,000 years from when he left off. He died on Passover, buried, resurrected, left the earth, but he was crucified at Passover. That ended the first part of the ministry. He would come back 2,000 years exactly and fulfill the fall feast days. So the timing, would be amazing. If these dates work out, and if Apophis is wormwood, and if the Essenes are right. Now, the Essenes have predicted things in the past, and they were 100% spot on. So, that's why it's worthy of taking a look at this and saying, well, what did they predict about the future? So here's some just backstory. The Essenes were a Jewish sect that lived in the desert of Qumran at least 100 years. I think it's 400 years. Most likely it's longer than the time of Jesus. They wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, again, like I was saying earlier, that is a documentation of every book except for, which one's not in there? I think Esther is the only book that's not in there. So the Tanakh, the Old Testament, every book in the Old Testament is accounted for except for Esther. And there's a reason, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a reason why Esther probably wasn't, when they left, they probably took that specific book with them for a reason. But anyway, it's all in there. So we know a lot of these things that were written when they were said to be written. I think Isaiah is pretty much all there. Some of it's just fragments, parchments, pieces. But in the case of Isaiah, it's like they have pretty much the whole book of Isaiah. So we know that, they were writing when they were said to be writing. We know that to be true now. In their own writings, they included their own prophecies as well. So it wasn't just the books of the Old Testament. They have their own prophecies and their own calendar, which I mentioned, which they believed to be more accurate than the one in Jerusalem at the time. And they believed the religious elite of Jerusalem had lost their focus, not teaching the right things. And that's why they left and headed out to the desert to be practice a more traditional form of Judaism. Their calendar was based on the sun, while the Pharisees and the Sadducees was based on the moon calendar. And they called themselves, the Essenes called themselves the children of light, and called the Pharisees the children of darkness. So, which is interesting that they were not viewing the world for what it really was. They were viewing it incorrectly. And they had the right, they had the right view of the world, the Essenes people. The 3 dates that Apophis flies by the earth are all within the last age, as stated by the Essenes. So the last age would go up until 2075. The 50-year jubilee would end in 2075. The last flyby date would be 2068. So 68, 69, 70, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, from 68 to 75 is a 7-year period as well. So, there's possibilities here that it doesn't have to be 2029, but the timing of 2029 just seems to work out really well. But you could have 2068 to 2075. That's a 7-year period as well. And right at the end would be Messiah coming back, the end of the Jubilee. But the first time, here's the interesting thing too. The first time the Messiah, Jesus came the first time, 2,000 years ago, he came in the beginning of the last 50-year period, the last Jubilee of that age, of the age of Torah. He came at the beginning of it. So now we're in the 50-year last Jubilee of this age, according to the Essenes calendar. So could he again come at the beginning of it, which would indicate, 2029, 20, or I guess 2032, when the 7-year period would be up. That's very possible. That, again, like I said, that'd be a 2,000 years later from picking up right where he left off 2,000 years later. And coming at the beginning of the last Jubilee as he did the first time. So, there are good cases to be made, but it could be 2068, or 2036. Just doesn't seem to fit as well. But, sometimes we learn as time goes on things that we didn't see at one time, and it makes more sense. But anyway, so the 3 dates all fit within that time span, regardless of when it comes. And they even called our age the age of grace. And they called it this 100 years at least before the time of Christ. Their calendar matches up to the calendar we use today for the most part. According to the Essenes, all human time can be split up into 7,000 years, and it can be split up into 4 ages. So 7,000 years is all time from the beginning of creation to the beginning of eternity, I guess you could say, because eternity goes on, in the Bible talks about the New Jerusalem, the new heavens, new earth being remade, but that's something different. It's not part of time as we know it. That's like beyond time. So from the beginning of creation to the end of time, before the eternity begins, that's 7,000 years is what they believed, based on their calendar. So first you have, like I said, the age of chaos or creation, which is Abraham, 2,000 years. And then you have from the call of Abraham to the time of Jesus is the age of Torah. It's Moses getting the law. Then you have basically 75 AD would be the end of the age of Torah. There's kind of, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when the end of the age. 75 was when the sacrifices in Jerusalem were finally put to rest. So that ended the sacrificial, like the Torah's decree to sacrifice animals for, the blood being spewed, because Jesus fulfilled all that stuff. So in 75 AD, that kind of ended it. And that could have been the very beginning of the age of grace. Some people might say it was when Jesus was actually crucified and resurrected, but the sacrifices still went on. The temple was still there until 70 AD is when the Jewish temple, the second temple, got destroyed. So 75 AD, everything was done, and it was, the age of grace from then on. So 2075 would be the end of, this last Jubilee. Again, 2,000 years since the end of the age of Torah would be the end of the age of grace. Then you have the millennial reign. That's 1,000 years. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7,000 years, end of history as we know it. And then you enter into eternity. So they knew all this before the New Testament was ever written, before Jesus was, conceived or they also knew he was going to come from a virgin. They wrote that he would come from a virgin. So they knew stuff that was not spoken of in the Old Testament. Incredible insight somehow. So, they had amazing predictions about the first coming of the Messiah. So it would lead one to believe that they could be accurate about the second coming as well. So here's some of the predictions that they had from their own writings. And according to writings of Josephus, Josephus was the historian of Jerusalem. So they correctly predicted that Herod would be king and he would be good for a while, but then turn bad. They predicted this before Herod. And again, because we have the writings now, we know that they were written before these things happened. They knew that the Messiah would be God incarnate. They knew about the Holy Spirit. They knew that it was the Trinity. They got that. They understood that concept. Again, this was not something that was prevalent in Jerusalem at the time. They knew Messiah would be born of a virgin birth. One of their own would be a voice in the wilderness that would make the way for the coming of the Messiah. That's John the Baptist. It's believed that, or a strong case that can be made that he was a Essene, that the Messiah would cure the sin problem inherited from Adam. Again, that's not what they thought. They thought he was going to be a military leader that was going to, free them from Rome. Not that he was going to come and die and cure the sin problem. That was not something that they were expecting. But the Essenes knew this. They wrote this. The Messiah would not free them from Rome, but free them from sin and put them in right standing with God. The Messiah would raise the dead, which is, again, not found in the Old Testament. That's not one of the things that the Old Testament has like over 100 some references to the Messiah, but raising the dead was not one of them. So, interesting that they somehow had known that the Messiah would be put to death by the high priest of lies. They called him the high priest of lies. And 40 years after that, that the destruction of the temple would occur. So they also knew that from when Messiah was cut off or, crucified in 32 AD, that 40 years after that, or give or take, that the temple would be destroyed. And it was. Jesus prophesied that as well. That the Messiah, they knew that the Messiah would be for Gentiles as well, not just the Jews. Again, not something that was believed, to be that they thought that the Messiah was theirs and theirs alone. But the Essenes knew that he was going to be for the Gentiles as well, that the Messiah would begin an age of grace, and even called it that. And they also knew that a Benjamite would explain everything to the Gentiles, and his synagogue would be with the Gentiles. And that was Paul and the epistles. They knew that Paul was going to write epistles that would explain all this stuff to the Gentiles. So they prophesied, they predicted or prophesied this stuff, which is amazing because, this was not the common belief in Israel or, in Judea at the time. Two different scrolls talk about a 7-year period of persecution and repentance, and even talks about people having some kind of mark on their forehead. Now, these were just pieces and fragments, so you couldn't really get the whole picture of it. But they talked about during each age would have this time of repentance where people could turn back to God, and call out for help or, to pray, blessing, forgiveness. And during Abraham, it was like a couple 100 year, I think it was a 100-year, 200-year period they talked about. So it was a long period. During the time of Torah, it was a much shorter period. I think it was like 40. I think it was 40 years. I think it was from the time of Jesus. Yeah, it's from the time of the crucifixion till the time of the temple being destroyed. They had that amount of, or from the time of the crucifixion till I think 75 AD. So it was like 40 years where they had to repent. They didn't, and the temple got destroyed. And then for the final age of grace that we're in, they said there'd be a 7-year period. Now that matches exactly with the 7-year tribulation that the Bible talks about, Revelation. So, and then they did talk about some kind of marking on the forehead, and that's probably a reference to the mark of the beast. That was in the same scroll as it's in the same section of the 7-year repentance and persecution period. So they could have even been prophesying about the mark of the beast, which is unbelievable. The year 2025, each age is 2,000 years, which split up into 500 years and then 10 jubilees, as I talked about earlier. So all human history can be broken down into 50-year jubilees. By their calendar, we're entering into the final jubilee of the age, which starts in 2025 and ends in 2075. And then by that point, everything should be fulfilled and the world should be ready for the millennial reign. So, very interesting. We're in this time period right now, literally a few years away from the beginning of the end of the last Jubilee, as they have in their calendar. So if we look at Jesus' first coming, he came pretty early on in that last Jubilee of the age of Torah. He came and died in Passover of year 32 AD. So That'd be comparable to our 2032 AD. So if you subtract 3.5 years away from that, you get April 13th, 2029, which is Apophis. So just, very interesting. And then 3.5 years after April 13th, 2029, which is 1,260 days, as the Bible indicates, you have September 24th, 2032, which is the Day of Atonement, according to the Essene calendar, and exactly 2,000 years after Jesus died and was resurrected, fulfilling the feast prophecy. So so that was the date. He comes back, or well, if this calendar's right, the timeline works out, he would come back in 2032 on Earth, land on the Mount of Olives on the Day of Atonement, which is, I've been reading about that for a long time before I ever knew about the Essene calendar, that the Day of Atonement was a possible and probable date for Jesus's return to Earth. So that would be pretty fascinating if that turned out to be true. Daniel also gives a 1,290-day timeline, which also has to be taken into account. And if you take 1,290 days from April 13th, 2029, you get October 24th, 2032, which is the day that Noah entered the ark, saving him from the flood of the Nephilim. There you go. There was a way to work it in. So that would be, so the other date that Daniel gives, the other amount of time that Daniel gives, also lines up to the date that Noah entered the ark. And again, this all matches up with Apophis and matches up with with 2025 being the beginning of the end of the last Jubilee of this age. So even though NASA is saying it won't hit, but they're not entirely sure because the influences, all around of the radiation and gases being let off, these dates are very interesting. So that's pretty much the story with the Essenes and their calendar. It just matches up very well. Now, I've seen other things like this that matched up and, things didn't happen. This seems to be I think this is probably the most amount of dates lining up that I've seen so far. But, there's no guarantees. And also, if you believe in a rapture or pre-tribulation rapture, or even mid-tribulation rapture, then that would mean if these dates are right and the tribulation would begin in 2025, because if you have 3.5 years into the midway of the tribulation, Apophis, if that's wormwood, then 3.5 years prior to that means the tribulation begins in 2025. Then you'd have the rapture have to happen before that, if it's pre-tribulation. Or the harpazo, if you want to call it the proper name, the rapture, we just give it that name as a translation from the Latin rapport, or rapport. But that word is from the translated Greek, the original word of harpazo, to be forcefully snatched out, taken away from something. So, that could mean that the rapture could be very, very, very close, a few years away. And it doesn't even mean it could happen really anytime. It doesn't have to happen right before the tribulation begins. It could be amount of time between the rapture and the tribulation beginning. If you want to believe in a mid-tribulation rapture, then you're looking at 2029, sometime before 2029. So, we're very close to those dates. Even 2036, even 2068. I mean, that's, I guess I would be like 90, but or 88 or something, like 90 years old, something like that, if I made it that long. So that's a little farther out, but nothing, we're in that age right now. We're in that time. And you look at everything going on in the world, and I mean, the natural disasters are off the charts right now. The world's coming undone. I mean, there's just wars going on, wars and rumors of wars, all the things that Jesus said, look for all these signs, are firing in all cylinders. So I think we're close. UFO sightings, like we said before, all-time high last year. Is it because everyone was home and more people were looking at the sky? Maybe. Or maybe it's because the time is coming. They knew something, that the world was changing, and so they're getting ready for whatever reveal they've got. But yeah, so anyway, that's where I wanted to finish off, because we started this 2 weeks ago with Apophis, and this was the other connection that was made. And this research is thanks to Skywatch TV. You guys should check them out if you're into prophecy and just what's going on in the world. Check out Skywatch TV. They have a YouTube channel, website as well, and Yeah, Josh Peck talked about this. I watched a couple of his interviews. Also, Dr. Ken Johnson, another Christian, Bible believing prophetic researcher. He was the one who came up with a lot of this, the Essenes, the connections, and found these dates to be very interesting. So, credit to them because they're the ones who really put this in front of people, and that's how I found out about it. So, and I started researching it from them. So yeah, tune into Skywatch TV if you want to learn more about this. It's really crazy. But that's about everything I want to cover as far as Apophis as of right now. And who knows, it's still a few years to go, so this thing could change. If NASA would admit to us that, it's got a chance of hitting us, I don't know, would they tell us? If they would, when? So we still got a few years where that could happen, but anyway, yeah, that's the end of the story with this. So sorry, I haven't really been paying attention to the chat because I just want to get through all that information. But I see. Oh yeah, I see. Mike. Oh, what's up, Mike? Welcome. I missed too much. Yeah, the beginning was Flipp and I. We were talking about UFO stuff, the UFO phenomenon, and this crazy new replicator, basically, the replicator of the future that was designed and released last year. Let's see, anything else I missed here? Oh, I'm gonna head outside again. Well, if you find anything, let me know. Send it my way, of course. Yeah, I mean, thanks for sending me that because that's really fascinating to look at. That was really good capture, Doug. Really good capture there. The final age of woman would be more. Final age of woman. Final age of whoa, man. We're all going to die. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. We need a global jubilee. Yeah, we do need we need an economic jubilee. A global economic jubilee. That's the only real way to get rid of debt. I mean, of course, that would never work out, but that is really what the whole world would have to agree to just forgive all debt. You're never going to get everyone on that same page, but that is what you need. That would be the ticket. But like if it comes closer to the Earth than the orbit of the moon, isn't it going to F with our ESS? It could mess with the satellites. It could mess with communications. If it hits our satellites, yeah. There could be even if it doesn't hit us, it could be repercussions, and if it were to break off at some point for something, or if it came in and collided with another object out there and it broke apart, then you have like basically what Greenland was about, where it wasn't just one asteroid, it was like a bunch of little pieces of it too that were raining down all over the planet. So you've got, there's a lot of concerns here if it were to do something. Now, I don't think it's on trajectory to hit anything that could break it apart, but they don't know, this is all, they're not sure. They're only looking at data and, trying to assess it. I mean, this stuff, but it changes. Like it already has changed once. They first said it was going to possibly hit us, and now they're saying it's not. So it's already changed once, but yeah. Yeah, there you go. Drink up. I think I said it just a few times tonight, but all right, guys. Well, I think that's I'll call it an end of the show. That's all the information I want to get through tonight. So well, remember, the good thing is if you're believer, that this is all prophesied, and God's in control of this. And if anything, it means that he's coming back soon. So that's the real hope here. It's not the danger of Apophis or the worries and concerns of what's possibly to come, but it's looking towards the return of the Messiah. That's the hope and everything that we've got. So yeah, so that's the takeaway, and that these predictions are very interesting because the Essenes were very accurate about their first prediction. They were predicting stuff that wasn't common. This was not belief of Judaism at the time, and not in the Old Testament, not in the Torah, but they were predicting it with great accuracy. They were right about the dates. They had said, here's the dates, here's what's going to happen, here's when it's going to happen, and it happened that way when they said it was going to happen. So there's good reason to believe, well, if they're right the first time, yeah, chances are they might be right the second time. So that's why it was so fascinating. I wanted to take a look at this, especially because it seems to also corroborate with the dates of Apophis. Now, I'm not saying, obviously nothing's written in stone. This might not happen, but it's worth taking a look at because the matching up and lining up of the dates it's all there. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and do check out the channel if you haven't already. I do have a membership now that I've started. So as you can see there, RR's got his nifty little, he's a member. So thank you, RR and Tina, for joining and becoming a member. So you can see in the membership there's different tiers. And as I get more members, I'll start doing like the perks and member streams and such as the channel grows. So, and do share out the link to this stuff if you know people that are interested and would like to hear about this information and are into the UFO, paranormal, biblical prophecy, strange histories, ancient histories. I've done a lot of the ancient history stuff with megalithic structures. That's another huge thing that I really love and am into, the mysteries of the past and some of the stuff that we find, the archaeological digs that turn up this stuff that doesn't make sense, and how some of these structures were built, and especially in Peru, there's so much over there. These huge andesite that they, somehow carved and made them look like marshmallows, just fit together so perfectly. It's impossible with what we know of the time. It's impossible. They didn't have the tools, so something created them. I don't think it was human. And all through America too. The Ohio serpent mounds. There's so much here that doesn't make sense. So, if you know people who are into that kind of stuff, definitely share out the channel. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. Thank you very much. Peace, y'all. See y'all soon. Thank you. There's all the different. You got stickers too. That's right. I got stickers now as well. So, thank you. Solid research. Thank you. I spent a good amount of time with this week and the 2 weeks ago, the Apophis. I spent a good amount of time researching this stuff. So, I like to try to do stuff that's is not getting a lot of coverage. I think should be getting a lot of coverage. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But okay, well, until next week, we'll be back next Sunday with another show, another topic. So until then, be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes, and travel safely, my friends.